Hey, Shalom, guys. Welcome to another episode of Parables from the Masters. Wow, we got commentary from the Chronicles of the Messiah series from First Fruits of Zion. So today we're going to be looking at a double parable that's going on, but they are very closely connected, as we're going to talk about. We're going to be looking at Luke chapter 3, verse 36 to 39. And this is what it says. He also told them this parable. No one attaches a patch of new cloth to a worn out cloth, for if he did so, the new one would also be torn. Nor would the new cloth match the worn cloth. No one puts new wine in used wineskins, for if he did so, the new wine will get split open, the wineskins. It would be poured out, and the wineskins would be destroyed. But the new wine is put into new wineskins, and both are preserved together. And whoever drinks the old wine does not desire the new wine any longer. For he will say, the old is more pleasant. So Yeshua added two parables. He told the disciples of John and the disciples of the Pharisees that it is inappropriate to tear a piece of cloth from a new garment to patch an old garment. The patch will not match, and both garments will be ruined. Likewise, no one fills an old wineskin with new wine. If they do, the already stretched wineskin will burst from the pressure of the fermenting wine, and both wine and skin will be ruined. The meaning of the double parable of the old garment and the old wineskin is seemingly obvious. The new garment represents the gospel, grace, kingdom, church, new covenant, and the old garment is the Torah, Judaism, synagogue, and old covenant. No one tears a new garment to patch an old one. Grace and Torah do not mix. Similarly, the new wine is the gospel, grace, kingdom, church, new covenant, and the old wineskin is the Torah, Judaism, synagogue, old covenant. Just as the new wine bursts from the old wine and spills out, so too the new covenant gospel of the church would be wasted if it was poured on into the old covenant, Mosaic, legalistic religion of Judaism. In an almost unanimous consent, Christian interpreters and commenters agree that old wine and old wine skins and the old garments symbolize Judaism and Torah, whereas the new wine and the new garments symbolize Christianity and grace. Quote, the new way of life associated with the gospel cannot be linked up with the old way of Judaism. To attempt to contain the gospel within the bounds of Judaism will only destroy both. This traditional interpretation of the double parable can be summed up in one word: incompatibility. It is supposed to teach that the old and the new are incompatible, that Judaism is incompatible with Christianity. Christian Bible teachers claim that the old is worn and obsolete. In that view, Jesus taught that the church must be a new and separate movement, not a patch attempting to prolong the institution of Judaism. This interpretation is anachronistic. Yeshua was not trying to start a new religion, nor did he intend to dismantle Judaism. At the time that Yeshua gave the double parable, Christianity did not exist. There is no denying that Jesus radically transformed and revolutionized Judaism for his followers, but surely we need not labor the point that it was in fact Judaism that he transformed for them. To attribute the idea of incompatibility to Jesus is the same way of describing his relationship to Judaism is bad theology and bad history. The interpretation of incompatibility comes from the replacement theology of a later century. Yeshua never considered his teaching or his followers incompatible with Judaism. Another serious problem with the incompatibility interpretation is the closing line of Luke 5:39. Quote, and no one after drinking old wine wishes for new, for he says the old is good. This troublesome verse appears only in Luke's version of the double parable. It creates a problem for the incompatibility interpretation because it seems to reverse the value assigned to the new wine. If the gospel is the new wine, It is as if Yeshua was comparing Judaism to good claret and the gospel to cheap poink. Marcion, the heretic, deemed Luke 5:39 as a Jewish interpolation into the Gospels and removed it from his canon. Several Western manuscripts followed his example and completely omitted the end of the verse as well. The omission betrays an anti-Jewish basis in scribal transmission. By removing the statement that the old wine is good, or even better, the editor felt that he had removed any suggestion that the Jews would reject the teachings of Christianity because they already were satisfied with Judaism. This indicates that the early church read the double parable according to the incompatibility interpretation at a very early stage. Recognizing that the incompatibility interpretation is flawed, several scholars have attempted to reinterpret the double parable in a manner consistent with the master's positive attitude toward Judaism. Most of these attempts, however, fail to satisfy. If the double parable is not about the incompatibility of Christianity and Judaism, what is it about? A series of Pharisaic proverbs preserved in Perikli Avot cast light upon the symbolism Yeshua employed in the double parable and clarify his intended meaning. He was not comparing and contrasting Judaism and Christianity. He was comparing and contrasting different types of teachers and disciples. Elisha ben Avua said, "He who studies as a child unto what can be compared? He can be compared to ink written upon a fresh, new sheet of paper. But he who studies as an adult, unto what is he compared? He can be compared to ink written on a smudged, previously used and erased sheet of paper." Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda of the city of Babylon said, "He who learns from the young unto what he can be compared. He can be compared to one who eats unripe grapes and drinks unfermented wine from his vat. But he who learns from the old unto what he can be compared. He can be compared to one who eats ripe grapes and drinks old wine." Rabbi Meir said, "Do not pay attention to the container, but pay attention to that which is in it. There is new container full of old wine, and here is an old container which does not even contain new wine." M. Advot, chapter 4, verse 20. The discussion in Perkil Avot compares different types of teachers, disciples, and the quality of the scholarship. It uses some of the same symbolic language as Yeshua's double parable. If we allow the similes of Avot 4 to inform the metaphors of Luke 5, we have surprising results. In Avot, the vessels for containing wine are not institutions, religious movements, or teachings. The vessels containing the wine are individual disciples and teachers. The wine is the teaching that an individual teacher presents and a disciple consumes. Or to put it in another way, no one takes new teachings and tries to teach them to an already educated student. If he does, he will leave the fresh students untaught, and the previously educated students will reject the new teaching. No one teaches new teachings to old, previously educated students. If he does, the new teaching will be rejected and the students will be lost. So instead, new interpretations of Torah must be taught to new students because no one, after receiving old teachings, previously education, wants the new, for he says the old teaching is better. The Avot interpretation of the double parable offers several advantages. Unlike the incompatibility theory, the Avot interpretation is not anachronistic. It does not pit Yeshua against Judaism, nor does it imagine a conflict between grace and Torah. Instead, it pits Yeshua's choice of disciples against the Pharisees' choice of disciples. Unlike the incompatibility theory, the avot interpretation fits the context in which the parable is found, namely the call and selection of Yeshua's disciples. In Luke chapter 5, verse 1 through 11, the master calls the 4 fishermen. In Luke chapter 5, verse 27 to 28, the tax collector, Levi, leaves his tax booth and follows Yeshua. Levi holds a banquet for Yeshua, and the Pharisees criticize Yeshua's disciples and the choice of company. In Luke chapter 6, the Pharisees criticize Yeshua's disciples for violating the Sabbath shortly before Yeshua makes his final selection of 12 disciples. In his commentary on the New Testament, Lichtenstein makes the same observation. He explains the double parable as follows. The master intends by these parables to explain why he has chosen the disciples from the uneducated among the masses, and why he chooses his tax collector and took him as his disciples. For his explanation that he came to call sinners to repentance suffices to resolve only the issue of his eating and drinking with sinners, but is inadequate to explain this. Why does he go further and choose them as disciples? Therefore, he gives his additional parable. For if the Pharisees and the Torah scholars became his disciples, they would not abandon the ways of their earlier learning and would remain with the old garment, and from the new there would only be a patch. Likewise, one does not put new wine into used wineskins. These are the Pharisees. Rather, the new wine should be put in new wineskins. That is, he is choosing new men to be his disciples, men who are ignorant and uneducated. So now we have the meaning for the parable of the garments. So the new garments represents the uneducated students. The old garment represents the previously educated students. The new patch represents a new teaching or interpretation of the Torah. So the meaning of this parable of the garment is previously educated students will reject the new teachings. The parable of the wineskins can be compared to this. So the new wine equals uneducated students. Old wineskins is previously educated students. The new wine, a new teaching or interpretation of Torah, while the old wine is a previously learned teaching or interpretation of Torah. So now the meaning behind this is the new teaching requires previously uneducated students because previously educated students prefer the Torah they have already learned. So I hope this brought a whole new perspective and a whole new understanding of the patch and the wineskin parables that are found in the book of Luke. So guys, if you can, please like and subscribe. Please share the video. And with all that being said, shalom.